matter where you are and what you're going through, you can get through it. Perspective number 5. Okay, I could teach all day on this one, but I'll try to hold it to about 4 minutes. Here we go. Feed your faith, starve your fears. And the key word, when I talk about feed your faith, starve your fears, the key word is focus. Because what you focus on expands, always does. So if I focus on faith, my faith expands. If I focus on my fears, my fear expands. What I focus on expands. So now I've got to make a choice. Do I focus on faith and feed my faith so that I can starve my fears? Or do I focus on fear and feed my fear and starve my faith? I just picked up this survey, and I want to pass it on to you. It was a survey that was entitled, What is Troubling You? Interesting enough, right at the top of the survey was financial issues. 39% of the people say, I'm most troubled about my financial situation. 16%, I'm most troubled about my job. And 12% said, I'm most troubled about my health. And I thought, well, those all make sense, but let me just tell you something that I haven't shared with you that you don't know yet. That survey, what is troubling you, financial, job-related, health, the survey was taken in 1992. Things really don't change much. In crisis, out of crisis, we still have basically the same fears. The old Cherokee Indian sat down with his grandson and he told him what they called the tale of two wolves. He said, there are two wolves within you. One is evil and the other is good. And the grandson said, well, which one will win? And the grandfather said, the one you feed. Wow. So don't feed the beast. Don't feed the beast. The beast is fear. But listen to me carefully. I'm not saying get rid of fear. You can't get rid of fear. Let me tell you something. I have fear. It's not like we get rid of fear and have none. That's totally ridiculous. If you have no fear, you're dead, okay? As long as you're alive, there are going to be negative emotions within you. I'm not saying you get rid of your negative emotions till you have no negative emotions. That isn't realistic. I would never do that for you. I'd never do that to you. But what I am saying is, within you, you have the positive emotion and you have the negative emotion. You got the faith and the fear. And the question is not, do you have them both? You do. I do. The question, who's going to win? If you feed your faith, your fear loses. If you feed your fear, your faith loses. In other words, what I focus on expands because they're both present. So I've got to ask myself, am I a faith pusher or am I a fear pusher? Wow. Well, I can tell you the answer to that. If I'm a person that feeds my faith, I'm a faith pusher to others. If I'm a person that feeds my fears, I'm a fear pusher to others. So let me give you my favorite fear pusher story. I love this story. Salesman goes to his barber, sits in the chair, he's getting his hair cut. Salesman's all excited. He said, oh my gosh. He said, I just want you to know, I'm getting ready to take a business trip to Italy. And the barber said, oh my. He said, what airline are you going on? He told him the airline, and the barber said, I wish you weren't going on that airline. Oh my gosh, they have a terrible safety record. You're not going to get there on time. I just wish you weren't on that airline. And well, salesman says, well, that's the one I'm on. And so he said, and where are you staying? And so the salesman told him the hotel, and the barber said, I was stationed in Italy. I was there for about a year and a half. And he said, I know that hotel. I said, that's a terrible hotel. Service is bad. I wish you weren't staying in that hotel. Oh, you'll probably be lucky to get towels. And he said, what are you doing over there? And he said, well, honestly, I've got a sales presentation. I'm going to meet with some people, and I'm hoping to do well in sales. And the barber said, I wish you weren't going for that reason. He said, Italians, they talk all day, but they don't buy very much. It's just not going to be very good. I'm so sad about this. Well, by this time, he's got the salesman so discouraged because he's a fear pusher. So the salesman just sitting there. He's no longer exuberant, excited about his trip. He's just kind of mumbling to himself. And as he's mumbling to himself, the barber can hear him say the word Pope. And he said, excuse me, he said, did I hear you say Pope? And yeah, I was talking to, yeah, the Pope. He said, well, what about the Pope? He said, well, he said, I was hoping when I got to Rome that I would be able to have a private audience with the Pope. Well, the barber now, he's beside himself. He said, this is the dumb. He said, oh, my gosh. He said, you're so unrealistic. Bad airline, bad hotel, bad reason for going. But now, he said, you want to see the Pope privately. He said, this just isn't going to happen. This is just not good. Well, salesman leaves discouraged. A month later, comes back, sits in the barber chair. The barber says, how did your trip to Italy go? The salesman said, greatest trip I've ever had. He said, do you remember that airline you told me that wasn't a very good airline? He said, I want you to know, I laid back in my seat and I fell asleep, slept about 6 hours on that trip. We landed 20 minutes early. It was a perfect landing. Oh, he said, trip couldn't have been better. He said, they picked me up in a taxi, took me to that hotel. Remember that hotel you said had bad service? He said, I got out of the taxi, and they greeted me at the door, and the first thing they handed to me was a fresh set of towels and said, this is for you. And he said, I love my room. I looked out on my balcony. I overlooked and saw the Vatican itself. He said, I went to the sales meeting the next day, and those Italians, they talked a lot, but boy, I'm telling you, they loved what my product was. And by noon, they bought everything. In fact, I got to go back next month for another order. He said, best sales meeting I ever had. And of course, he's telling all this good news to a fear pusher, and the barber just keeps sinking lower and lower and lower. Oh. Then he said, but the greatest thing that happened to me is he said, I got to see the Pope. I had a private audience with the Pope. And the barber said, you got to be kidding me. I've never known anybody that ever got to see the Pope privately. He said, tell me about it. He said, well, he said it was amazing. He said, they ushered him into this very beautiful, long, ornate room, red carpet. And as I entered in the door, I looked clear down at the other end, and there was the Pope standing, waiting for me. And it was so humbling, that walk on that red carpet, and I just felt so humbled. When I got to the Pope, I immediately went to my knees. I kissed his ring. He said he put his hand upon my head, and he said, my son, where did you ever get such a lousy haircut? I love that story. Oh, how many of you, come on, raise your hand. How many of you know a barber right now? Huh? How many of you know barbers? I don't take this personal. I love you. But how many of you know a fear pusher? Because here's what I know. Here's what I know. If you feed your fear, what will happen is you'll get emotionally stuck. When people are fearful, they don't move. I know that for a fact. I had a business that helped organizations raise literally millions and millions of dollars. And we were signing a contract every day up till 9/11. And when 9/11 happened, from 9/11 to the end of the year, no contracts were signed. People were stuck in their fear. Well, if you feed your fear, you'll get stuck. If you feed your faith, you'll move. That's just a fact.